Okay, so let's talk about gametes. We're gonna move on to meiosis. Mitosis is cell division, asexual reproduction. I did the chart for you last time, so go back to that. Meiosis is sexual reproduction, and that's gonna involve gametes, sperm. This is sperm cell. This is egg cell. Look how big this is compared to this. So there's a difference in size as well. And another thing is females. So they have to put in a lot more energy into reproduction compared to males. And not just in making these eggs, also in gestation, they have to carry, for humans, they have to carry the offspring for 9 months. Whereas males, they don't they can make millions of sperms. Whereas for females, it's about quality of the eggs, and they are born with the number of eggs they're gonna have in their lifetime. Whereas males, they can make sperm basically every day. Another thing is because I talked about gestation, females, they have to carry the child for 9 months. Males, they can basically they can leave. They don't, they don't have to stick around. Another thing is if you pick a wrong, if a person, you pick a person with maybe defective genes, then you still have to carry the child for 9 months and you don't know the end result. So it takes a little bit more for females versus males. But these are the gametes. This is what happens in meiosis. So gametes are the sperm and the egg cells, and the haploid sex cells. Haploid means they're gonna have one set of chromosomes. So we looked at 46 total. It's gonna have 23. So haploid has only one set of chromosomes. When two haploid cells fuse at fertilization. So once this sperm is able to insert the genetic material inside the egg, that's fertilization. And now you're not gonna call this an egg, you're gonna call it a zygote because you have the genetic material from the sperm and also the egg. So the zygote is the first new cell of the organism. And this zygote is going to go through mitosis now. It's going to start dividing and dividing and dividing and then developing into maybe head and arms and skin cells, muscle cells. So this is the chart I showed you last time. This is what I just talked about. If once you have the zygote, once this sperm fertilizes this egg, you have the zygote. This is going to start dividing and dividing and dividing, and that's mitosis. Meiosis includes the sperm cells and the egg cells. The organism grows by mitotic cell division, but this zygote forms by meiosis. And you're gonna see that here, this is called germ cells. Germ cells divide by meiosis. This term germ cells comes from Greek. They knew that male had to put something in female in order to, do the reproduction. So they thought, they call it germ cell. They also call it the seed, germ or seed. So they didn't know that females also have eggs that has genetic material. So they thought that these sperm cells were like seeds. And once they go inside the female body, and which is like a farm, something grows out of it. So that's what they thought. But that's where the term comes from, germ cells. So also you might also hear some of the bacteria, people calling them germs. So germ cells divide by meiosis. These are the germ cells, gametes, sperm and the egg cells. What does this, Truce, I just saw your question. And how many typical egg? So Truce just asked the question, how many typical eggs female can carry? So you're born with, they're called follicles, number of follicle cells. I can't remember the math, but you don't end up using all of them. I think you only use 400 over your lifetime, depending on if you start your period at age of 15 and maybe menopause at 35. You're probably going to use around 400 of the eggs, but you're born with a lot more than that. I usually do the math in my anatomy class. So this is a summary figure showing meiosis. Sometimes students think that this is just mitosis happening twice. Now, because we covered mitosis for the last chapter, I want you to take a minute And I want you to observe this figure, and I want you to tell me maybe two big differences in mitosis versus meiosis. I'm gonna give you a minute for that.
Two diploids, right? And then meiosis produces four haploid gametes.
Yes, yes. So for also Daniel said this in the chat. So for mitosis, we learned that it produces two cells, and for meiosis, you're gonna start with diploid, and you're gonna have four cells. Each is gonna have single set of chromosomes. With half of the chromosomes, yes. Mitosis produced, yeah. So that's the biggest difference you might notice right away. Another big one I want you to notice is this stage right here. This is because they're in the middle. So this is the metaphase. And you're going to notice that if you compare this metaphase to mitosis, you're gonna notice there's double rows, two rows here, one here, another one here for meiosis, whereas in mitosis is gonna be a single row. So I'm going to go over meiosis next in detail. So the cell on the left has two pairs of homologous chromosomes. Again, the word homologous is, we're gonna start applying the vocabulary we learned. Whereas on the right have two unpaired, unreplicated chromosomes. So unpaired, unreplicated, so you're basically going from diploid to haploid. Okay, so first thing I want you to notice, this is meiosis 1. You're gonna see meiosis and then Roman numeral 1. Meiosis 1, there's two parts to meiosis. Then there's meiosis 2, Roman numeral 2. You can still use the PMAT mnemonic that we learned. So you still have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. But how are you gonna tell if I'm talking about meiosis and mitosis? So you're gonna notice there's a Roman numeral after prophase now. You have prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. Then you go to meiosis 2. Then you have prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2. So you have Roman numeral 2. So that's one thing I want you to notice. And when you're reading the question, if I'm saying maybe something prophase, then it's about mitosis. If I'm saying maybe prophase 1, then it's about meiosis 1. If I'm saying prophase 2, it's meiosis 2, second part of meiosis. So sometimes students think that meiosis is just mitosis happening twice. That's not true. This is not, the steps are not similar to mitosis for meiosis 1, but for meiosis 2, it's repeating mitosis. It's a repeating mitosis for meiosis 2. So we're gonna go over the steps. So I said egg cells or sperm cells go through meiosis, and then that's how reproduction happens basically. So let's look at each one first. So we have prophase. It says early or late. And again, like I said last time, it depends when you are looking at it. Sometimes they look at the cell when it's entering prophase. Sometimes they look at it when it's leaving prophase, so early or late. So the nuclear envelope starts to break, spindle fibers form, and they start to catch on to like spider webs to these chromosomes. But for metaphase 1, and for middle, they're going to be lining up in the middle. But this time, because it's meiosis, you have double rows. One here, another one here. Paired homologous chromosomes align along the equator, means the middle. And we are not saying sister chromatids yet. We're saying paired homologous chromosomes. And in anaphase, they start to separate. They start moving away from each other to the opposite poles of the cell. But they still didn't break. The sister chromatids are still attached. It still looks like X if you were looking at it from this side. And then telophase, you start to see the cleavage furrow, and then cytokinesis is going to give you two cells now. Then prophase happens again. Spindle fibers start to break, and then they hold on to these chromosomes. Now you have a single row, just like mitosis. And in anaphase, they start pulling away from each other, and they look like V's. Now the sister chromatids split apart. And then telophase, again, you start to see cleavage furrow, and spindle disappears, and then cytokinesis gives you these 4 cells. Now, if it was egg cells, so egg cells, they start meiosis when you're born, but then they don't finish. So every month when you ovulate, this is what's happening. It starts here and starts to divide and then gives you, the egg cell. Whereas the sperm cell, they comes from the stem cells. Stem cells either can make more stem cells or they can make sperm cells. And this is what the sperm cells go through. So each month you ovulate, this is what your follicle cells, follicular cells are going through in your ovaries. And for males in your testes, this is what the sperm cells are going through. So at the end, you're going to have sperm cells. So let me show you something really quick. So I'm going to show you what's happening males versus females. So if you guys remember last time I said you have the cell and then it's going to divide. So this is meiosis 1. I'm going through meiosis 1. So you have 2 cells now. And then meiosis 2 happens. You have 2 more cells. So at the end, you have haploid. And this is happening in males. I'm going to draw a little tail here. It's a sperm cell. This is happening for the sperm cell. It's going through meiosis 1 and going through meiosis 2. This is what you get. This is for sperm. Then we have females. And females, they make, 1 egg. So you have the cell here, goes through meiosis 1. What's going to happen when it goes through meiosis 1? It's going to keep the cytoplasm of the cell in 1 cell instead of dividing it into 2. And the reason is because there are all these organelles here. So the organelles also stay in this 1 cell, including the mitochondria that has the DNA. So, your organelles and your mitochondria comes from your mother. So all the organelles stay here. And what makes on this side is this smaller, something called polar body. So this smaller, I don't know what to call it, small structure. This is called polar body. The cytoplasm stays in this 1 cell. Then meiosis 2 happens. So you have meiosis 2. And same thing happens again. The cytoplasm stays in 1 cell and it makes a polar body, another polar body, another polar body. It can either even disintegrate right here or it can disintegrate right here. So this is not useful. It's going to disintegrate. So all these are polar bodies, called polar bodies. They're going to disintegrate. They're not useful. There's no cytoplasm in it. This has all the organelles, this egg, and it has all the organelles, including the mitochondria. This also has all the organelles. So females, they're making, so this is egg, 1 egg, whereas the males, they're making 4 sperm cells. And that's because all the organelles, they don't have to stay in 1. Here, the organelles has to stay here because that's how you're gonna get your mitochondria and all the organelles. So what I'm trying to say in males is symmetrical, the cell, the meiosis division. Here it's asymmetrical. You get 1, the other 3 just disintegrate. So here you would get 4 sperm cells if we were talking about males. If we were talking about females, you'll get 1 egg cell and maybe some polar bodies. Are there any questions on meiosis?
Professor, can you go back to the drawing portion that you did?
Yeah.
So you said the eggs were symmetrical and then the sperm was asymmetrical?
No, sperm is symmetrical because you get 4. Egg is asymmetrical. You only get 1 egg.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions here? Please do not confuse meiosis with mitosis. Meiosis is sexual reproduction. Mitosis is asexual. And meiosis 2 is similar to what's happening in mitosis, but meiosis 1 is different. And the biggest difference you can see here, one, it's going to be 2 rows here, and another one is you're going to get 4 cells here at the end. And then you're going to have half of as much DNA that you started with. I'm going to play this animation, and I want you to kind of see if you can label the steps here, and then I'll go over it. Okay. So it's meiosis is starting, the nuclear envelope breaks. So that's prophase 1, and they start to line up in the middle, metaphase 1. And then they're going to start pulling away from each other. That's anaphase 1. And the sister chromatids are still attached. Then the nuclear envelope reappears, telophase, cytokinesis, you have 2 cells. And same thing starts to happen again, prophase 2 and metaphase 2. They line up in the middle. Now sister chromatids break, anaphase 2, and then again reappears, telophase 2, cytokinesis. You have haploid or 4 cells at the end. So that's meiosis. If this is not making sense to you, please do your homework and please do the Labster lab. It's going to walk you through the steps as well, and it's going to ask you the differences as well, and also read the chapter. Sometimes students, they don't like these pictures. You will see these pictures on the exam. I will give you the picture and I'll ask you if this is prophase 1, prophase 2, metaphase 1, metaphase 2. So try to go over these pictures. And so I gave you another figure here. This is under the microscope. It's the actual DNA because so this is color coded a little bit. Sometimes students like this one better. So you have the chromosomes here, spindle fibers starting to form. They line up in the middle, and that's metaphase. You can see that here under the microscope as well. They're moving away from each other. That's anaphase. And then the telophase 1, the nuclear envelope reappears. But this is talking about all the chromosomes that we have in our body. That's why you see a bunch of lines here. And then prophase 2, same thing, nuclear envelope disappears. The chromosomes, they get lined up in the middle, but now sister chromatids break and they look like V's. And you can see same thing happening under the microscope here. In the end, you're going to have 4 haploid cells. So this shows that you have 2N goes to replication, then you have 1N, and then the gametes are haploid here. So it's the same thing, meiosis 1, meiosis 2, what we just went over. So if you understood the meiosis, then you should be able to answer this question. So the question is, a germ cell in the goat's ovary is getting ready to divide. 2 terms I want you to notice, germ cell and the ovary. So this is going to tell you if I'm talking about meiosis or mitosis. As the DNA replicates, each chromosome is doubled. So there are 2 attached sister chromatids. So when it says double, that means diploid. At what point will the sister chromatids separate?